Yes, you've read that right. It's not a typo. When I tell people there is such a thing as underwatering succulents, sometimes they just don't believe me. While overwatering can be an issue with succulents, I think people are being unnecessarily spooked into starving their succulents of water. When I sell my succulents to the public, people often show me their struggling succulents to get advice. You'd be surprised how often the reason for them struggling is underwatering. In this video, we'll have a look at what underwatered succulents look like, when they can die from underwatering, and how they become underwatered, and how to prevent underwatering but also overwatering. So these guys here are the extreme. They're severely underwatered but alive and can still be saved. When succulents start feeling thirsty, they'll tell you. Many will develop wrinkles on their leaves. If they're not watered, the next step is going to be the leaf shriveling and dying off. Succulents with thinner leaves may skip the wrinkles and go straight to shriveling and dropping leaves. Being thirsty is stressful to plants, and when it comes to succulents, this can mean color change. The color can range from brown to red to orange and pink. Many people, including myself, sometimes keep succulents a bit dry to force these colors to appear. But this can be risky if other stress factors come into play. For example, if you have a dry stressed succulent and it's also very hot and windy, this could shock the plant enough to lose a lot of leaves or even die. Keeping succulents underwatered will also make them think they are in drought and will act accordingly. Many will drop their bottom leaves and only maintain a few leaves. The remaining leaves will become chunky, compact, and the stalk will thicken. I've also seen underwatered succulents stretch upwards. Not all succulents will stretch, but some can. And lastly, underwatered succulents with thinner leaves can get droopy, limp leaves. Some of these leaves can start to go yellow and eventually shrivel and die. Underwatering can very much change the way a succulent looks. I briefly touched upon this earlier. Succulents can die from being underwatered when there's too many stress factors affecting them all at once. And I have great examples of this, as our climate can be very dry as well as very hot. First, let's talk about underwatering and heat. Many of you would have experienced temperatures of 35 degrees Celsius or 95 Fahrenheit or above in the last few years. Where I am, 35 degrees Celsius is not that much, and we often get 40 or 104 Fahrenheit. A few consecutive days of a sunny weather like this will dry out even the chunkiest of succulents. When the weather is this hot, I water my nursery plants every other day. They can get completely dry in a couple of hours, even after a good soak. That can be pretty swift for underwatered succulents during heat waves, especially if they are small. Being severely root-bound and underwatered can be a death sentence too. Root-bound succulents have used up all of the growing space and nutrients available to them. Combine that with starving them of water, you can have a very unhappy succulent. Another deathly combination is young, small succulents that have not yet established very well and lack of water. Tiny plants like these don't have enough water reserves and can die faster than more mature succulents. I know the answer can seem kind of obvious, but just bear with me. You can have thirsty underwatered succulents even if you've been watering. Notice how beautiful and happy this black night looks. The weather when I took this video was cool and it's been raining regularly. This is the same plant just a couple of months later. It's now much hotter and drier. I've been watering, but it's just not enough because of the pot. Unsealed terracotta or concrete are porous and dry out much faster than plastic or ceramic pots. You may be watering every day, but when it's dry, hot and the humidity is low, it's likely to not be enough. It's also common for the potting mix in terracotta pots to go hydrophobic, which basically means it repels water and doesn't soak it up, leaving the plants parched. Hydrophobic potting mix or soil can develop when it's left dry for way too long. Succulents can become underwatered when the potting mix is too gritty. This is what my potting mix looks like. It's well draining but also soaks up water for long enough so my succulents can actually absorb some of it. While super gritty succulent mixes can work for some, it's good to be aware that they can cause dangerous underwatering in certain conditions. And finally, let's talk about dark colored and small pots. These heat up extremely fast and cause rapid water loss when exposed to direct sun during hot days. Even when you water often, you may find succulents in black and small pots get thirsty fast. In my opinion, there is a way to strike balance and have your succulents adequately watered but not overwatered. Basically, you'll water when the potting mix has completely dried up from the previous watering. I have a more in-depth video on watering succulents tagged at the end. Additionally, your succulents are more likely to be underwatered in the warm months and if you live in a climate where temperatures over 30 degrees Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit are common. In moderate climates with sufficient rainfall, it's pretty unlikely your succulents will get to a point where they're dying from being kept dry. And that is all for today. I hope this video was useful, and if you have anything to add or if you'd like to ask a question, you can do so in the comments below. To learn more about succulents, hit the subscribe button or go to our website succulentgrowingtips.com. Thank you very much for watching.